Divorced men. When ex demanded sign the divorce papers, how did she react when you smiled? Story 1. My ex slammed the divorce packet on the kitchen island like it was a winning hand. Sign. Now. I'm not doing this back and forth anymore. Her nails tapped the signature line. Hard. Impatient. Like she was ringing a bell for a servant. I didn't even open it. I just looked at her. Then at the pen she'd placed perfectly beside the papers. And I smiled. Her whole face tightened. What is wrong with you? For months, she'd been auditioning for the role of woman finally free. She'd practiced speeches in the mirror. How I was emotionally unavailable. How I never supported her. How she deserved more. Meanwhile, she was already dressing for dates she claimed were girls' nights. The smile wasn't revenge. It was relief. I flipped to the last page and read the fine print she hadn't. Her draft included a clause where I'd keep paying the car note on the SUV she'd insisted was hers, plus half her rent, to maintain her lifestyle. She'd even highlighted it. You're smiling because you think you're getting off easy, she snapped. No, I said calmly. I'm smiling because you finally put it in writing. Her eyes narrowed. In writing what? I slid the packet back to her. That you want this. That you initiated it. That you're demanding it today. After threatening it for 2 years, she scoffed. So sign. I pulled out my phone and called my attorney on speaker. Her posture changed instantly, like someone had turned on a bright light. When my lawyer answered, I said, she brought papers. There's a support clause in here. I won't sign this. What's our next step? My ex went white. Why are you calling a lawyer? Just sign it like a man. I kept smiling, still polite. A man doesn't sign contracts he didn't negotiate. The moment my attorney said, we'll file our own petition, my ex exploded. She grabbed the packet, pages flapping, and hissed, you're making this ugly. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just pointed at the signature line again and said, you told me to sign. I'm going to, just not yours. That's when it hit her. The divorce wasn't her power move anymore. It was real, and I was happy about it. Story 2. The demand came at the mediation office, not at home. She marched in with a folder like she was the judge. I want him to sign today, she told the mediator, loud enough for the receptionist to hear. He's been dragging this out. Dragging it out. Funny. I'd been asking for counseling for a year while she collected screenshots of my failures like evidence. She wanted an audience. She wanted the dramatic victory scene where she tossed me away and everyone applauded her strength. The mediator slid the papers toward me. My ex leaned forward, eyes glittering. Go ahead. Put your name on it. I read them once, then twice. Then I looked up and smiled. Slow, uncontrollable, like my body had made the decision before my mouth did. Her smile flickered. Why are you smiling? Because you're finally being honest, I said. This is what you've wanted since the day you started calling me roommate, she scoffed. I wanted peace. I want to be free. Same, I said, and kept smiling. The mediator asked if we should take a break. My ex snapped, no, he's going to sign. I took the pen. I could feel her excitement vibrating across the table. In her head, this was the part where I broke. Begged. Promised change. Anything to keep her. Instead, I signed without hesitation. The sound of the pen scratching paper was so quiet, but it sucked all the air out of the room. She blinked hard like she'd missed her cue. That's it? She asked. You're not going to say anything? I capped the pen carefully and slid it back. Thank you, I said. Her mouth fell open. Thank you? For giving me my life back, I said, still calm. For stopping the threats and actually doing it. The mediator tried to hide a reaction, but I saw it. A tiny nod. Like, finally. My ex's cheeks flushed red. She started talking fast. You're acting like you won. You didn't win. You're going to regret this. You'll realize what you lost. I stood up, still smiling. I already realized what I lost. That's why I'm not scared. In the parking lot, she followed me to my car, voice cracking. You're not supposed to be happy. That was the moment she understood. The divorce wasn't punishment. It was a gift. And I'd accepted it with a smile. Story 3. She demanded I sign the papers the same way she demanded everything, like it was my job to comply. We met at her sister's house because she refused to be alone with me, unless there were witnesses. Her sister poured wine like it was a viewing party. My ex set the papers down and said, sign these. Right now. We're done. I picked up the stack. The top page was covered in sticky notes like she'd been studying for a test. And I smiled. Her sister's eyebrows shot up. My ex tilted her head. You think this is funny? No, I said. I think this is overdue. She slapped the table. Stop with the attitude. Just sign. I took my time flipping through. She kept talking the whole time about how she carried the marriage, how she sacrificed everything, how she could have done so much better. I nodded like I was listening, but all I could think was, she's still trying to win an argument while the relationship is already dead. Then I hit the part where she'd listed personal property. She'd written down things she'd never touched in her life. My grandfather's watch, my guitar, my tool set, even the dog's registration. I looked up, still smiling. This is impressive. Her eyes lit up, hopeful. So you'll sign? Not this, I said. Her face snapped. Excuse me? I tapped the list. You can have the couch. You can have the dishes. You can have every single throw pillow you bought to stage your perfect home, but you're not taking my grandfather's watch, and you're not taking my dog, her sister muttered. Oh boy, my ex stood up so fast the chair scraped. After everything I did for you, you're going to fight me over a watch? I'm going to smile while I do it, I said. And the words came out colder than I expected. Because for once, I'm not afraid of your tantrums. She stared at me, breathing hard, then grabbed the papers and ripped off the sticky notes like they were the problem. You're unbelievable. I stood too. No, I said. I'm done being believable. I'm just being honest. As I walked out, she screamed after me. You're going to regret this. I paused in the doorway, turned back, and smiled again. Bigger. I regret not signing sooner. Story 4. My ex texted me, bring a pen. No excuses. She chose a coffee shop because she wanted a public stage. She arrived early, already sitting with the papers spread out like a deal closing. When I sat down, she didn't even say hi. Sign. I smiled so automatically she flinched. Why are you smiling? She demanded, lowering her voice like she didn't want anyone hearing her panic. Because the last time she'd threatened divorce, it was to make me beg. The time before that, it was to make me cancel a trip. The time before that, it was because I didn't laugh at her joke about my mom. Divorce was her favorite weapon, until it wasn't. I took the papers and skimmed them. She watched my face like a hawk, waiting for pain, waiting for desperation. Instead, I kept smiling and said, You're sure? Yes, she snapped. I'm tired of you. I'm tired of this. I want you gone. I nodded. Perfect. That word, perfect, hit her like a slap. Don't act like you're relieved, she hissed. You're not going to find someone like me? I laughed once, quietly. Not to be cruel, just because it sounded insane out loud. I signed. No dramatic pause. No shaking hands. Just a clean signature, like I was signing for a package I'd been waiting on. Her eyes widened. She stared at my name like it didn't belong there. That's it? That's it, I said. She swallowed. So you're just going to walk away? I leaned back and looked at her properly for the first time in months. I used to memorize her moods. I used to try to predict what tone would keep the peace. Now I just saw a woman who expected me to collapse so she could feel powerful. I'm going to walk away, I said, and I'm going to sleep like a rock tonight. Her voice cracked. You're doing this to hurt me. I stood up. No. I'm doing this so you can't hurt me anymore. As I turned to leave, she reached out like she might grab my sleeve, then stopped herself because people were watching. Her face twisted between rage and something that looked dangerously close to fear. Don't you dare be happy, she whispered. I smiled one last time. Too late. Story 5. She demanded I sign the divorce papers on the one day she knew I couldn't make a scene. My niece's birthday party. I arrived at my sister's house with a wrapped gift and a forced neutral face. My ex was already there. Perfect hair, perfect smile for the family, like she wasn't about to cut my life in half between cake and balloons. Halfway through the party, she cornered me in the hallway and shoved an envelope into my chest. Sign these today, she whispered. I'm not waiting. I stared at the envelope. Then I smiled. Her eyes flashed. Are you insane? Don't smile at me. You picked a birthday party, I said softly. That's bold. It's convenient, she snapped. You won't yell. You won't argue. You'll just do it. So that was the plan. Trap me in a polite setting and force compliance. I opened the envelope and looked at the first page. I could hear kids laughing in the living room. My niece shouting about presents. Life moving forward without my marriage being the main event. And for the first time, I felt light. I smiled bigger. Okay. My ex's confidence returned instantly. She shoved a pen into my hand. Finally, I walked into the kitchen where my sister was cutting cake. I set the papers down on the counter, still smiling, and said, Hey, quick question. Can you witness this? My sister froze. Witness what? My ex's head snapped toward me. What are you doing? I'm signing, I said, calm. You wanted it signed. I'm making it official. My ex's face drained. Not here. Not like this. But it was too late. My brother-in-law looked over. My mom appeared in the doorway, sensing tension like she always did. My ex hissed, You're embarrassing me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse her of cheating, or lying, or threatening divorce every time she got mad. I didn't have to. I just smiled at my family and said, "It's mutual. We're finalizing it." That was the moment she lost control of the narrative. No dramatic speech, no secret villain, just paperwork in bright daylight with witnesses who suddenly understood this wasn't a sudden tragedy. It was a long time coming. My ex grabbed the pen back like it burned her. "You planned this." I shook my head. "You did. You just didn't expect me to be happy." From the living room, my niece yelled, "Uncle, come get cake." I looked at my ex, smiled one last time and said, "I will." That's kind of the point. Story 6. She demanded I sign the divorce papers in the lobby of our old apartment building, like she wanted the neighbors to hear the closing credits. She held the folder against her chest and said, "Sign it. Right here. I'm not letting you drag this out." I looked at the marble floor, the security camera, the doorman pretending not to listen, and I smiled. Her eyes sharpened. "Don't do that. Don't act like you're happy." "I'm not acting," I said. She shoved the pen toward me. "You think you're winning?" I flipped through the pages and saw what she'd done. She'd listed exclusive use of the storage unit, where my family photos and my dad's military medals were. She was trying to keep my past as leverage. I kept smiling, but my voice went flat. "You put my father's things in this?" "They were in the unit," she snapped. "So they're part of it?" "No," I said, and that smile turned into something she didn't recognize. "They're not." She leaned closer. "If you don't sign today, I'm going to make this hell. I'll tell everyone what you're really like." I nodded once. "Okay." That word, "okay," made her blink. She'd expected fear, negotiation, a plea. Instead, I walked to the doorman, asked politely for a witness signature, and called my attorney while she stood there frozen, still clutching the folder. Her voice rose. "Are you serious? You're calling a lawyer over some junk in a box?" I turned back, still calm. "It's not junk. It's my life, and you don't get to auction it off because you're mad." When my attorney answered, I said clearly, "She's trying to tie personal family items to the settlement. I'm not signing." File. My ex's face did something ugly, like the mask slipped and cracked. "You're making me the villain." "No," I said. "You're doing that yourself. I'm just smiling because I'm done pretending it's my job to save you from your choices." She backed up like I'd hit her. The neighbor's elevator dinged. 2 people stepped out and looked straight at us. My ex snapped her folder shut and hissed, "This isn't over." I nodded, still smiling. "For me, it is." Story 7. My ex chose the one place she thought I couldn't refuse her. My job. She showed up at the front desk with a folder and a bright fake smile. "Tell him it's urgent. It's about our divorce." The receptionist's eyes widened like she'd just been handed a live grenade. 10 minutes later, I'm in a conference room, and there she is, sitting like she owns the building. She slid the papers across the table. "Sign. I want this finalized." I stared at the signature line, and I smiled. Her shoulders stiffened. "Oh, so now you're happy? After you ruined my life?" I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just said, "You brought these here because you wanted power." She scoffed. "No, I brought them here because you ignore me." "I ignore manipulation," I corrected, still smiling. "Not paperwork." She leaned forward, whispering like we were conspirators. "Sign. And I won't tell people why we're divorcing." That's when I realized the folder wasn't the weapon. The threat was. I picked up the pen slowly like I was considering it, and she exhaled in triumph. Then I slid the pen back down. "I'll sign with my attorney present." "Not here." Her face snapped. "You don't need an attorney. It's basic. You're just being difficult." I nodded toward the glass wall. Outside, coworkers walked by, pretending they weren't looking. "You chose this place to embarrass me into compliance. That's not basic. That's you needing an audience." She stood up fast, knocking her chair back. "You're smiling like you're some hero." "I'm smiling because you finally did something honest," I said. "You're not here for closure. You're here for control." Her voice jumped an octave. "Control? You controlled me for years." I opened the door and called security. Not loudly, just calmly. The guard appeared like he'd been waiting. My ex's face drained. "You can leave the documents," I told her. "My lawyer will respond." She stared at me like she didn't know who I was. "You're not afraid of me anymore." I kept the smile. "That's what the papers are for." Story 8. She demanded I sign the divorce papers in our driveway, in front of the moving truck. She'd already started packing my things into boxes like she was running a warehouse. "Here," she said, slapping the packet on the hood of my car. "You sign, you take your junk, and you disappear." Our neighbors were outside. One of them was watering plants, pausing every few seconds to watch. I smiled. My ex's lips curled. "What's funny? You losing your house?" "No," I said. "You proving my point." She frowned. "What point?" I flipped through the packet. It wasn't court documents. It was her agreement, typed up like a landlord eviction notice. It said I'd voluntarily vacated, that I waived claims, that I'd forfeit shared property. She'd basically written herself a victory. I looked up, still smiling. You think divorce works like a breakup text? Her eyes flashed. It works however I say it works. You've wasted enough of my time. I heard my sister's voice in my head. Don't sign anything without counsel. So I didn't. Instead, I walked to the moving truck and pulled out my own folder. She'd never asked what I was carrying. She assumed it was clothes. It was a copy of the mortgage statements, showing I'd been paying extra principal for 2 years. It was screenshots of her messages about using divorce to scare you into obedience. It was receipts for the renovations she bragged to her friends she made you do. She stared at my folder like it was a snake. What's that? She demanded. Reality, I said. The part you don't control. I dialed my attorney on speaker. My ex started waving her packet around like a flag. Tell him to sign. My lawyer's voice came through. Do not sign that. We'll file and request temporary orders. Also, do not leave the property without a written stipulation. My ex froze. Temporary orders? I nodded, smiling. You wanted me gone today. Turns out you don't get to schedule my life. Her face turned a dangerous shade of red. You're enjoying this? I'm enjoying being free, I said, and walked past her into the house to eat cake with my niece, like she wasn't screaming my name behind me. Story 9. My ex demanded I sign the divorce papers the day she caught me smiling at my phone. We were separated but still under the same roof, living like hostile roommates. She saw me in the kitchen, looking at a message, and her eyes narrowed like she'd spotted betrayal. Who is that? She snapped. I didn't answer, because it wasn't anyone romantic. It was my therapist reminding me of an appointment. A simple, boring text. Proof that I was rebuilding. Her face twisted. You think you're moving on? Fine. Sign these. She pulled the packet from a drawer like she'd been waiting for a trigger. She slapped it down and shoved the pen at me. Sign the divorce papers. Since you're so happy. I smiled again. Not even on purpose. It was automatic now. Like my body refused to go back into panic mode. Her voice rose. Stop smiling. I opened the packet and saw something worse than greed. She'd included a paragraph about no contact, but with an exception where she could reach out for emotional support in times of distress. She wanted to divorce me and keep me as her emergency hotline. I tapped that line. This is interesting. Her eyes darted. It's standard. No, I said, still calm. Standard is, we end. Cleanly. She crossed her arms. You owe me closure. I laughed once. You don't want closure. You want access. The word access hit her like a slap. She leaned in, furious. You think you're some prize? I think I'm done, I said, smiling. And that's what scares you. She reached for the papers to pull them back, but I held them, firm, steady. I'll sign, I said. Her whole body softened in triumph. Finally, I continued. In front of my attorney with real terms and with one condition. You don't get to call me when you miss the version of me you mistreated. Her face collapsed, like she'd just realized the divorce wasn't a door she could keep half open. Story 10. She demanded I sign the divorce papers at the restaurant where we'd had our first anniversary dinner. She called it symbolic. I called it what it was. Theater. She arrived dressed like she was going to a gala. She sat down, ordered wine, and then slid the papers across the table between the bread basket and my water glass. Sign, she said, sweet as poison. Let's end this like adults. I smiled. Her smile faltered. Why are you smiling at me like that? Because I could see it now. She wanted this location so she could rewrite history. She wanted to say later that she tried, that she cried, that she closed the chapter in the place it began. I opened the packet. Real court documents this time, but she'd added a handwritten sticky note on the front. Don't get cute. Just sign. I looked up. You planned the mood lighting for my surrender? She scoffed. You always have to be dramatic. I leaned back, still smiling. You're confusing dramatic with awake. She stiffened. If you don't sign tonight, I'll take you for everything. I nodded, like I was considering her threat. Then I reached into my pocket and placed my own envelope on the table. Her eyes flicked to it. What's that? My signature, I said. She brightened for half a second. Then I added, on a petition my attorney already filed this morning. Her face went blank. You filed? I sipped my water. Yes. You wanted me to sign like I was begging for permission to leave. Instead, I left properly. Her hands tightened around the wine glass. You did this behind my back. You mean, I corrected, still calm. Without asking you to approve it. The waiter appeared with our food. The timing was brutal. Plates set down like punctuation. My ex's voice shook. So that's it? You're just done? I smiled, soft but absolute. I've been done. I'm just finally not ashamed of it. She stared at my smile like it was the last thing she expected to lose control over. And it was. Story 11. My ex demanded I sign the divorce papers at my mother's house, 2 days after my dad's funeral. She showed up in black, not out of respect, out of strategy. She hugged my mom, whispered, "I'm so sorry," then turned to me with that same polished expression she used when she wanted something. "Let's be practical," she said, pulling a folder from her purse. "Sign. We can't keep dragging this." My mom was still in the kitchen, washing dishes that didn't need washing. Grief makes people do that. Move their hands so they don't fall apart. I looked at the folder, then at my ex, and I smiled. Her eyes widened in offended disbelief. "Are you seriously smiling right now?" "I'm smiling because I finally see you clearly," I said quietly. "You picked today because you thought I'd be too broken to say no." She bristled. "Don't twist this. I'm trying to help you move on." I opened the papers. She'd tucked a temporary support request inside, like a little surprise. It wasn't enough for her to leave. She wanted my signature to fund her exit. My mom stepped into the doorway. "What's that?" My ex's head snapped toward her, voice instantly soft. "Just paperwork. I don't want to stress him." I kept smiling and turned the packet so my mom could see the title page. "It's the divorce papers. She wants me to sign. Today." The air changed. My mom didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just stared at my ex like she'd never met her before. My ex's cheeks went hot. "This has nothing to do with you," my mom said, very calm. "In my home it does." My ex looked at me, furious. "Why would you bring her into this?" I tapped the support clause. "Why would you bring money into a funeral week?" She reached for the papers, but I held them. "I'll sign," I said. Her face softened with triumph, until I finished the sentence. "I'll sign the version my attorney prepares, and you will not do business in my mother's grief again." Her mouth opened, closed. She couldn't find the right script because she'd expected me to beg, not smile. As she stormed out, she hissed, "You're heartless." I didn't flinch. "No. I'm finally done letting you use mine." Story 12. She demanded I sign the papers in the parking lot of the courthouse, before we even went inside. She had that wired energy, like she'd been rehearsing her victory all morning. "Sign now," she said. "If you sign now, we don't have to go in there. We can keep it clean." Clean. That was her favorite word when she wanted something messy to happen quietly. I took the packet and smiled. Her confidence cracked instantly. "Stop doing that. This isn't funny." I read the front page and realized why she was so eager. She'd filed an uncontested agreement that gave her the house, the savings, and primary decision-making on everything. We didn't even have kids, but she still wanted language that made me sound like a hazard. I looked up, still smiling. "You want me to sign a fairy tale?" Her jaw clenched. "It's fair. You just hate that I'm finally taking control." "No," I said, tapping the numbers. "This is not control. This is theft with better formatting." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "If you embarrass me in court, I swear I'll ruin you." I nodded slowly. "You already tried. That's why I'm smiling." Her eyes darted. "What do you mean?" I pulled out my phone and showed her an email, one she hadn't expected me to forward to my attorney. It was her message to my sister. "If he won't sign, I'll say he was abusive. Courts always believe women." Her face drained so fast it was like the sun went out. "You weren't supposed to have that," she whispered. I smiled wider. "You sent it. That's the funny part." We walked into the courthouse together. She was suddenly quiet, eyes forward, jaw locked, like she was trying to hold her life together by force. Inside, when the clerk asked if we'd reached an agreement, my ex said, "We need more time." I didn't even look at her. I just said, "No, Your Honor. We're ready to proceed." She flinched at "Your Honor," like it was a slap. She'd wanted a private surrender, not a public process. And that's when she learned the difference. Story 13. My ex demanded I sign the divorce papers during our final walkthrough of the house we were selling. The realtor was upstairs measuring windows, and my ex used the quiet like a trap. She held out the packet and said, "Sign. If you sign today, I'll stop being difficult." I smiled. Her eyes narrowed. "What are you smiling about?" "This is your fault." I looked around the empty living room. No couch, no photos, just dents in the carpet where our life used to sit. For months, she'd blamed me for the emptiness like I'd stolen it. But she was the one who packed first. She was the one who told friends I was refusing to let her go. Now she wanted my signature like a trophy. I read the pages. Halfway through, I saw it. A clause stating I was responsible for any undisclosed debt. That wasn't a mistake. That was a plan. I kept smiling, turned the page, and asked casually, "What's the credit card ending in 8842? Her face twitched. "What? The one you opened last year," I said, still calm. "The one you used for home upgrades that never happened. It's not listed." She snatched the packet back. "You're spying on me. I'm paying attention," I corrected. She stepped closer, voice low and sharp. "Sign and I'll be nice. Don't sign. And I'll tell the realtor you're the reason the sale is delayed." I'll make you look insane. The realtor's footsteps creaked upstairs. My ex's smile returned, performative. I smiled right back. Go ahead. She blinked. Go ahead? I raised my voice just enough. Hey, Mark, quick question. Do you know if the sale can be paused if one party discovers undisclosed marital debt? The realtor appeared at the top of the stairs, confused. My ex's face turned pure panic. She hissed, "What are you doing? Turning your private games into public reality," I said. "Because you only behave when other people are watching." She wanted the signature. Instead, she got exposure. Story 14. My ex demanded I sign the papers the night she brought her new boyfriend to pick up her things. They showed up together, not by accident. She wanted me to see. She wanted my jealousy, my anger, my reaction, the last proof I still belonged to her emotionally. She handed me the packet like it was dessert after the main course. "Sign these, since you're clearly not fighting for me." The new guy stood behind her, arms crossed, trying to look intimidating. He looked like he'd been fed a story where I was a villain who refused to let her go. I smiled. My ex's expression flickered. "Why are you smiling?" "Because you brought backup," I said. "That means you're nervous." Her boyfriend scoffed. "Bro, just sign. Stop being petty." I turned the papers toward him. "You read them?" He hesitated. My ex snapped. "He doesn't need to read them." I kept smiling and pointed at a section. "This says I waive my right to the retirement account, one I've been paying into for 12 years. You think I'm petty for not signing that in my own doorway?" My ex's voice sharpened. "You don't deserve it. You were never supportive." Her boyfriend shifted. The confidence was leaving him. He could feel the math. I looked at him. "She tell you why she needs my signature tonight?" "Because a judge won't rubber stamp this." My ex's eyes went wild. "Stop talking." I nodded slowly. "You wanted an audience. Here's your audience." Her boyfriend took a step back, suddenly uncomfortable. "Babe, is that true?" My ex spun on him. "Don't start." I leaned on the doorframe, still smiling, and said, "I'll sign the real papers, the fair ones. Not the ones you wrote to punish me." My ex's face twisted with rage. Not because she loved me, but because she'd lost control of the storyline in front of her new supply. That night, she didn't get her signature. She lost her performance. Story 15. My ex demanded I sign the divorce papers through a video call, screen shared like she was presenting quarterly results. She was in her new apartment, immaculate background, candle burning, a glass of wine placed perfectly in frame. She wanted to look peaceful, healed, above it all. "Okay," she said, clicking her mouse. I emailed the documents. "Open them. Sign. I want this wrapped up." I smiled. Her face hardened instantly. "Why are you smiling at your screen? Are you trying to antagonize me?" "No," I said. "I'm surprised you're still trying to direct the scene." She rolled her eyes. "Just sign." I opened the documents. On page 3, she'd inserted a paragraph titled, "Acknowledgement of Fault." It was basically a confession that I failed as a husband, withheld affection, and caused emotional distress. She wanted my signature to validate her narrative forever. I scrolled slowly, still smiling. "This is creative." Her voice sharpened. "It's truthful. It's theatrical," I corrected, "and it's not legally necessary." She leaned closer to the camera. "Sign it, or I'll tell everyone you refused because you know it's true." That was her pattern. If she couldn't control facts, she'd control the story. I nodded once. "Okay." Her shoulders loosened in relief. "Good." I clicked stop share on my end and said, "I'm forwarding this to my attorney right now. And I'm saving this call." Her face changed like someone pulled the plug. "You can't record me." "I didn't say I recorded you," I replied, still smiling. "I said I'm saving the documents and your threat." Her voice got small, fast. "I wasn't threatening you." "You were," I said, calm. "And that's why I'm smiling. Because you keep handing me proof that leaving was the correct decision." She stared at me through the screen. Silent, furious, suddenly unsure. For the first time, the camera wasn't her stage. It was her mirror. Story 16. My ex demanded I sign the divorce papers at the bank, right in front of the financial advisor. She booked the appointment without asking me, then texted, "Be there at 2. Bring ID. We're closing accounts and you're signing." I walked in expecting a lecture. She was already seated, perfectly composed, like she'd been practicing the face she wanted to wear when I finally lost. The advisor slid the packet toward me. My ex said, "He'll sign. We just need to finish." I smiled. The advisor blinked. My ex's expression tightened. "Don't start with that smug look." I looked at the documents and immediately saw why she was here. She wanted me to sign away access to the joint savings right before the accounts were split. A clean little handoff, dressed up as efficiency. I kept smiling and asked the advisor, Before I sign anything, can you confirm whether removing my name today changes how the funds are classified during divorce proceedings? The advisor's posture changed, professional caution kicking in. That depends on your jurisdiction and your divorce filing status. Have you consulted counsel? My ex jumped in fast. We don't need counsel. This is mutual. I smiled at that word. Mutual is a funny way to describe she scheduled it and told me to show up. The advisor cleared his throat. I can't recommend signing anything that changes ownership while a divorce is pending without independent legal advice. My ex's face reddened. He's overcomplicating it. I leaned back, still calm. No, I'm preventing you from simplifying me out of my own money, she hissed through her teeth. You're making me look bad, I nodded. You did that when you tried to use a bank appointment as a trap. The advisor pushed the papers back toward her. We should pause this and reschedule once you both have legal guidance. My ex snatched the packet like it insulted her. Outside in the parking lot, she exploded. You embarrassed me. I smiled, opened my car door and said, you wanted a signature. You got a boundary instead. Story 17. My ex demanded I sign the divorce papers at my daughter's school pickup. We were trying to be civil for the kids. I'd been doing the yes ma'am routine for months just to keep peace. So she picked the moment where other parents were watching and our daughter was within earshot. She marched up with a manila envelope. Sign these. I'm done waiting. I felt my stomach drop. Then I smiled anyway. Her eyes flashed. Do not smile. Not here. I crouched down, zipped my daughter's coat and kissed her forehead. Go on, sweetheart. Get in the car. My ex's jaw clenched. We need this finalized. I opened the envelope. Right on top was a page titled Parenting Agreement. And it was loaded with little landmines. She got final decision-making, she got the holidays I'd always hosted, and there was a line about my limited involvement due to work obligations that was completely false. I looked up, still smiling. You're using school pickup to pressure me into signing something our daughter will live with. She lowered her voice, venomous. If you don't sign, I'll tell everyone you're refusing to cooperate. I nodded. Tell them. That threw her off. She was used to me caring about appearances. I walked up to the office window and said politely, Hi, could we step inside? I'd like a private space for a co-parenting discussion. My ex froze. She didn't want privacy. She wanted leverage. Inside the office, the receptionist sat nearby, close enough to hear tone, not content. My ex's voice went tight. You're ridiculous. I set the papers down and said, I will not sign anything in a parking lot. Send it to my attorney. Her face cracked. You have an attorney? I have a child, I said, still smiling. That's why, back outside, she tried one last shot. You'll regret making this hard. I buckled my daughter into the car, closed the door and smiled. I regret letting you make it easy. Story 18. My ex demanded I sign the divorce papers at the gym. Yes, the gym. She knew I went at 6 a.m., and she showed up in full makeup, holding a folder like she was there to file a complaint with management. She walked right into the lobby and said, loud enough for half the treadmills to hear, We're getting this done today. Sign. Every head turned. That was the point. I smiled. Her nostrils flared. You're enjoying humiliating me. You're enjoying trying to humiliate me, I corrected. She shoved the papers at my chest. Sign and we can stop all this. I glanced through them and almost laughed for real. She'd included a non-disparagement clause that only applied to me. She could talk. I couldn't. She wanted a muzzle, not peace. I looked at her, still smiling, and said, So you can smear me freely while I stay silent? Nice. Her eyes flicked. That's not what it says. It is, I said. And then I did the one thing she wasn't prepared for. I walked to the front desk and asked, Can you call your manager? I need to report harassment. Her face went pale. Harassment? You followed me here, I said evenly. You're creating a scene. You're interfering with my routine. The manager came out. My ex tried to turn on charm, but her voice shook. We're just discussing paperwork. The manager looked at the folder, then at me. Sir, do you want her to leave? I smiled. Yes, my ex stared at me like I'd erased her identity. For years, she'd been the one who told me where to stand, how to talk, what to do to keep the peace. Now a stranger was asking me what I wanted, and I finally answered. She stormed out, yelling that I was abusive for kicking her out, and the gym went quiet behind her like the end of a scene. I went back to my workout, smiling, because she'd just learned she couldn't use public spaces to control me anymore. Story 19. My ex demanded I sign the divorce papers at the airport. We were supposed to exchange our dog. I was flying out for work and she picked the terminal because she knew I wouldn't have time to argue. She walked up, handed me the leash with one hand and the packet with the other. Sign before you go through security. I smiled. Her eyes narrowed. Don't smile. You're not getting out of this. I flipped to the page she'd highlighted. It was about the dog. She wanted sole ownership. plus a clause saying I'd pay half the vet bills forever, even after I had no rights to see him. I looked up. So I finance him. You keep him. She snapped. You travel. You can't take care of him. I can take care of myself, I said, still smiling. Which is why I'm not signing this. She stepped closer, voice low and urgent. If you don't sign, I'll tell TSA you're harassing me. That was her old move. Weaponize authority, create fear, force compliance. I smiled wider and waved over an airport security officer. Not TSA at the checkpoint, just a nearby officer. Hi, I said politely. My ex is trying to pressure me into signing legal documents and threatened to falsely accuse me if I refuse. Could you stand here while we separate? My ex's face emptied out. What are you doing? Preventing you from lying, I said. The officer's posture changed. Ma'am, step back. My ex sputtered, furious. He's manipulating you. The officer looked at the packet. Sir, do you want to leave? I nodded. Yes. She tried one last time, voice cracking. You're going to regret this. I adjusted my bag strap, smiled, and said, I regret not learning sooner that your threats only work in private. Then I walked through security, and for once, she couldn't follow. Story 20. My ex demanded I sign the divorce papers at my new apartment. 10 minutes after she found out my address. I opened the door to see her standing there with a folder and that familiar look, anger dressed as confidence. Sign these, she said. You don't get to move on until I say it's done. I smiled. She flinched like the smile was a weapon. Stop smiling at me in your little apartment like you won. I leaned on the doorframe. You came here because you can't stand that I'm not waiting for your permission. She tried to push the folder into my chest. I'm not leaving until you sign. I looked down at the papers. They weren't official filings, just her typed up agreement again, full of guilt language and money grabs. At the bottom, she'd written in pen, if you don't sign, I'll show up at your work. I tilted it so she could see I'd read it. You put your threat in writing. Her eyes darted. So that's convenient, I said, still smiling. Because the next time you show up somewhere, it won't be with papers. It'll be with a restraining order request attached. Her mouth opened. Shock. You wouldn't. I nodded. I would. Because you're not here for closure. You're here to keep your hand on the wheel. She stepped closer, trying to intimidate. You think you're safe? You think you can just smile and make me disappear? I didn't move. I just raised my phone and said calmly, I'm calling the police to document that you came to my home uninvited and refused to leave. Her face shifted into panic rage. You're insane. No, I said, and my smile stayed steady. I'm finally serious. She backed away like the air around my doorway had changed rules. This isn't over. I nodded once. It is for me. And I closed the door, still smiling, because the silence afterward was the first peace I'd had in years. Story 21. My ex demanded I sign the divorce papers at the mechanic's shop while my car was on the lift. She'd insisted we share the appointment because the car was marital property, and she wanted to make sure I didn't hide anything. Translation. She wanted to supervise me like I was a dishonest employee. The mechanic walked away and she struck. Folder out, pen out, voice low. Sign these, she said. I'm done waiting. I smiled. Her eyes snapped up. Why are you smiling? You think you're clever? I opened the packet. It was her version again, full of little traps. She wanted me to accept sole responsibility for the loan on the car, but she also wanted exclusive use until it was paid off. Pay for it, don't drive it. Classic. I looked up, still smiling. So you want the keys and the bill? She crossed her arms. I want what's fair. I nodded toward the lift. Fair is, you don't treat everything I touch like something you're entitled to. She leaned in, voice sharp. Sign, or I'll tell the mechanic you've been shady and that you're probably lying about payments. I laughed softly. You're going to weaponize a stranger's opinion to make me sign paperwork? She didn't blink. People believe me. That's when the mechanic came back with a clipboard. My ex smiled at him like she was ordering coffee. Could you witness his signature? The mechanic hesitated. Signature for what? I held the packet up. Divorce agreement. The mechanic's eyebrows shot up. I don't think I should be involved. My ex's face tightened. It's just a witness. It's not just anything, the mechanic said, backing away. I'm not signing legal stuff. My ex turned on me like I'd staged it. You embarrassed me. I shrugged, still smiling. You embarrassed yourself trying to turn an oil change into a hostage negotiation, she hissed. You're going to regret not signing. I nodded. Maybe. But I'd regret signing your traps more. Then I paid my invoice and left her standing there holding her folder like it was a dead weight. Story 22. My ex demanded I sign the divorce papers at my cousin's wedding, right after the ceremony, before the reception. She caught me alone near the bar, still in my suit, still trying to be polite for family. She slid the packet into my hands like it was a program. Sign, she whispered. If you're really as mature as you pretend to be, I smiled. Her eyes widened. You're sick. This is a wedding. Exactly, I said. You picked it because you thought I'd behave. She tilted her chin. I'm trying to protect my peace. I opened the packet and felt my stomach flip. She'd included a clause that I forfeit any claim to marital gifts. Gifts we'd received as a couple. Money from my grandparents, a bond from my aunt. She wanted it all defined as hers. I looked up, still smiling. You're robbing me at a wedding. Her cheeks burned. It's what I deserve. In the ballroom, a toast started. Everyone was clapping, laughing, celebrating. My ex didn't even look toward it. She only watched my pen hand like she could control it. I stepped toward the table where my uncle was sitting. My uncle, the one who used to handle everyone's paperwork and taxes and knew exactly what fine print looked like. My ex grabbed my wrist. Don't you dare! I smiled at her grip. You brought this into a family event. That means it's family business now. I laid the packet down in front of my uncle and said calmly, she wants me to sign this here. Can you look at it for 30 seconds and tell me if it's fair? My ex's face went rigid. She whispered, you're humiliating me. My uncle didn't raise his voice. He just read one page, then another, then looked at her like she was a stranger. This isn't fair, he said, simple and final. My ex's eyes flashed with panic. You don't understand. He held up a hand. I understand. You tried to exploit a wedding. The music swelled. Someone shouted, cheers! And my ex stood there, trapped between her plan and the public light. She snatched the papers away and spat. You'll regret this, I smiled, because for the first time, she was the one who had to walk back into a room full of people knowing her mask had slipped. Story 23. My ex demanded I sign the divorce papers while we were clearing out our storage unit. It was a dusty, fluorescent-lit box of our past. She stood at the entrance with her arms crossed, watching me lift bins like I was proving my worth with each trip. Then she pulled the papers out and said, sign now. We're already here. It's efficient. I smiled. She rolled her eyes. God, you're insufferable. I opened the packet. She'd listed half the storage contents as hers, including the bins labeled childhood, dad, and photos. Stuff that wasn't marital property. It was identity. I looked up, still smiling. You really don't know the difference between shared and yours to take. She stepped forward, voice rising. I supported you. I lived through your moods. I earned this. I pointed at the bin with my father's name on it. You didn't earn him. She froze for a second, then went hard. Sign, or I'm keeping the unit key. I nodded slowly. So you can ransom my past. Her eyes narrowed. If you want those things, you'll sign. That's when I did the simplest thing in the world. I took out my phone and started recording. Not her face, just the papers and my voice. I'm at Unit 214, I said calmly. And my ex is refusing to release personal family items unless I sign an agreement she drafted. My ex's confidence shattered. Stop recording me. I'm recording the situation, I replied, still smiling. Because you always behave differently when there's proof. She grabbed for the phone. I stepped back. The storage manager, hearing raised voices, walked over. Everything okay? He asked. My ex tried to smile. Yes, we're fine. I held up the packet. She's trying to condition access to my personal belongings on signing legal papers. The manager's expression went neutral professional. Ma'am, you can't do that here. If there's a dispute, you both need to leave and resolve it legally. My ex stared at him like he'd betrayed her. She hated third parties who didn't take her side automatically. She stuffed the papers back into her bag and snapped, fine. Take your stupid boxes. I smiled as I lifted the bin with my dad's name. Thank you. She glared. Don't thank me. I smiled wider. I'm not thanking you. I'm thanking the universe that I'm leaving.